When was the last time you took just 60 seconds to think positive thoughts? A single minute dedicated to only moments in your life that you're thankful to have experienced. In today's episode of The Sidebar, we are looking at a blog post from November 2023 by artist and polymath Jeremy Brunansky. He addresses the concept of thanks and being thankful. Furthermore, is thanks something relegated to a single day or an attitude we can cultivate in our daily lives? Grab your coffee, tea, or wine. It's time for The Sidebar.
So what can a corporate AI risk manager, someone who is literally paid to obsess over worst-case scenarios and catastrophic failures, actually teach you about the practice of radical gratitude?
It sounds like a total contradiction, right?
Right. I mean, usually when we think about taking an inventory of our lives, we're biologically wired to look for what's missing.
Right.
We scan the horizon for threats, we notice the empty spaces on our shelves, and we just fixate on the things that still need fixing.
Well, yeah, and that's just a fundamental survival instinct. Human beings evolved to notice the rustling in the bushes way before we notice, the beauty of the sunset.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So to actively switch that mental framework, to scan for surplus and safety and thankfulness, that is a profound cognitive pivot.
Which is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the theme of thankfulness, but we are completely bypassing the obligatory pass the gravy Hallmark card cliches.
Well, absolutely.
We're going to explore gratitude across the entire spectrum of your life, traveling from the magnificent, life-altering elements all the way down to the absolute smallest, most granular, seemingly insignificant personal moments.
And our map for this journey today is a reflection piece. It's titled A Moment of Thanks, written around Thanksgiving in 2023 by Jeremy Brunansky.
Right, and we're pairing that piece with his personal reference guide.
Yeah, which is essentially, it's a schematic of his very unique brain.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to grasp the actual mechanics of the gratitude practice he's outlining, we really have to understand the incredibly unusual architecture of his mind.
It's fascinating.
It really is. You look at his brain box, as the source material calls it,
Yeah.
and it operates like a web browser with 50 completely different, highly complex tabs open all at the exact same time.
It's a masterclass in synthesized thinking. I mean, on one side, you have the corporate logic tab. He's a frontline leader with over 2 decades of cross-functional experience.
Oh.
He holds certifications as a Google and IBM AI professional, specifically specializing in AI risk management, efficiencies, and governance.
Meaning his literal day job requires a highly technical, logic-driven mind that builds guardrails against failure.
Right.
But then you click over to the next browser tab and you find a man who began acting, singing, dancing, and playing classical piano at about 5 years old.
Which is just a wild pivot.
Totally. He has been deeply entrenched in the performing arts for nearly 40 years. He graduated from the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences.
Right.
He explores jazz and Latin percussion. He's a filmmaker, a published author.
And, just for good measure, he's a Spartan race finisher.
Right. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, how does that change things?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that specific synthesis of disciplines completely reframes how we should read his thoughts on Thanksgiving.
How so?
When a mind that's trained in the rigid logic and risk mitigation of AI merges with the deep, visceral, emotional resonance of classical piano and filmmaking, the result is highly intentional. I see.
And he grounds all of this in the teachings of ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Aristotle. So his approach to gratitude isn't just a fleeting, warm and fuzzy sentiment.
It's structural.
Exactly. It's a deliberate, highly structured philosophical framework.
Deliberate really is the operative word there, because right at the beginning of his piece, he establishes a very specific environment for this framework. He writes that Thanksgiving is a period of time dedicated to opening up the heart and mind to positivity.
Right.
But then he outlines a controversial first step. He says, and I'm quoting here, "We shut the doors temporarily on everything that is void of thankfulness." And honestly, I have to push back on that premise immediately.
You find the idea of shutting the doors problematic.
Well, yeah, it sounds like willful denial,
Yeah.
especially coming from someone certified in risk management.
I see why you'd say that. Right. I mean, his entire technological career is based on identifying what could go wrong and staring directly at the negative data.
Yeah.
So isn't closing the door on anything void of thankfulness just throwing on a pair of blinders and pretending the house isn't on fire.
It is super easy to interpret it that way, but looking through the lens of his background, I'd actually argue it isn't denial at all. It is an exercise in extreme focus.
Okay, tell me more.
Think about his background in studio recording or his work as a filmmaker. A film director doesn't deny that the chaotic, messy, real world exists outside the soundstage.
Sure.
But they deliberately close those heavy, soundproof studio doors anyway to keep the ambient noise out.
Oh, right. So they can actually capture the specific scene they're trying to film without, like, an airplane ruining the audio.
Precisely. That is the exact mechanism at play here. By intentionally dedicating a specific period to open the heart and mind solely to positivity, Brunansky is using gratitude as a tool for mental recalibration.
Mental recalibration.
Yeah. If you're constantly scanning for risks and deficits, your cognitive instrument gets knocked out of tune. He is muting the noise to tune the instrument.
Muting the noise to tune the instrument. Wow, that completely changes the context. And once that soundproof door is shut, he issues a very specific challenge to his readers.
He does.
He tells us to start by considering what we are most thankful for in our lives, the massive, undeniable pillars. But the challenge doesn't stop there. He wants you to walk down the ladder of magnitude.
Yeah, he writes, keep going until you hit that emotional spot of, yeah, that's a good one too, I suppose.
I love that phrasing.
Right. From gigantic importance to the most minuscule of mentions, enjoy the things you're thankful for today. This directly taps into a quote he references from the philosopher Henry David Thoreau.
Oh, what's the quote?
Thoreau says, I am grateful for what I am and have. My thanksgiving is perpetual.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because maintaining a perpetual state of thanksgiving requires a very specific mechanical tool.
What do you mean?
It is exactly like adjusting the zoom lens on a camera. When your mind is zoomed all the way out to the widest angle, you capture the majestic, sweeping landscape of your life, the grand themes.
Right, the big picture.
But if you only ever take wide-angle shots, you become completely numb to the texture of your daily existence. Brunansky is telling us to twist that lens, zoom all the way in past the landscape, past the trees, until you are focused purely on the intricate, microscopic veins of a single leaf.
That's a great analogy. And his own personal list in A Moment of Thanks is the ultimate demonstration of that camera lens constantly shifting focus.
Let's track that shift. So on the grand, zoomed-out, wide-angle scale, he lists the foundational elements. He is thankful for his health, his family, and his old and new relationships.
Very foundational.
He specifically highlights his partner, Virginia, and he lists belief and faith in both good times and bad.
Those are the tectonic plates of a meaningful life. But then he twists the lens inward to what we might call the vibrant layer, the elements that add color and kinetic energy to existence.
Right, the mid-range shots. So here he says he's thankful for travel, music, film, humor, good food, and good drinks.
Yeah, the fun stuff.
He also says he's thankful for women because they make everything about life more exciting. And he unapologetically adds that he's thankful for good, better, and the best types of sex.
Which is honestly a brilliant inclusion because it strips away that puritanical, sanitized veneer we so often drape over the topic of Thanksgiving.
Right.
He is celebrating the visceral, lived human experience. He isn't just thankful for abstract concepts, He is thankful for a pulse.
And then he twists the lens to the absolute maximum macro setting, the everyday minuscule moments. He is thankful for good books, and crucially, he notes he is thankful for the time to reflect on the words within them.
Time is the real luxury there.
It really is. He appreciates the random people you interact with at the gym. And his final sign-off, the ultimate micro-level anchor of his entire list is, I'm also thankful for a cup of coffee first thing in the morning.
I mean, who isn't? But he even extends this granular perspective beyond human intellect. He includes a picture of his dog, Ray, and writes, Ray the dog is thankful for her home, tiny toys to chew, and naps.
Oh, Ray.
Yeah, it illustrates that gratitude is a state of contentment we can observe and appreciate even in the simple creatures around us.
But there is one specific mid-range item on his list that I want to isolate, because placing it next to Stoic philosophy and classical art feels incredibly jarring.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Right alongside faith and family, he writes, and I'm thankful for money. I'm a big fan of money.
It is a deeply provocative statement in the context of a gratitude journal.
Doesn't it shatter the illusion, though? If we are trying to elevate our mindset to this Thoreau-esque level of spiritual gratitude, tossing cold, hard cash into the mix feels like a betrayal of the premise.
What's fascinating here is it actually secures the foundation of his entire philosophy.
Oh, so?
Because what he is practicing in that moment is radical honesty. Look at the mechanism behind his list of vibrant experiences. The travel to Poland or Mexico, the access to great films, the ability to buy good books, and even the luxury of having the free time to reflect on those books. How are those experiences physically facilitated in our modern society?
Ah, I see the mechanism now. Because if you pretend you only care about spiritual enlightenment and you completely ignore the fact that an economic system paid for the plane ticket that gave you the enlightenment, you are starting your entire gratitude list with a lie.
Exactly the point.
Yeah.
As an AI governance expert, he understands systems and infrastructure. Money is simply the infrastructure that powers the art, the travel, and the security.
Right, it's just a tool.
By stating plainly that he is a fan of money, he refuses to engage in performative piety. He gives you, the listener, explicit permission to be grateful for the practical, tangible tools that actually make your daily life functional.
But that commitment to radical honesty inevitably drags us into much more difficult territory.
Yeah, it does.
Because if you are committed to seeing the whole board honestly, you have to acknowledge that we don't just extract value from the things that comfort us, like the morning coffee or the vacation funds. We are also fundamentally shaped by the things that aggravate us.
Right. The friction in our lives.
Yes, the friction. And Brunansky pulls a really heavy quote from Aristotle to illustrate how we should process this friction.
The one about superficial views.
That's the one. Aristotle said, "It is just that we should be grateful, not only to those with whose views we may agree, but also to those who have expressed more superficial views. For these also contributed something by developing before us the powers of thought."
This raises an important question. How often do we actually view our intellectual adversaries as contributors to our own growth?
Well, unpack that mechanism for me. Because normally when I encounter someone with a superficial or like a poorly thought out view, my instinct isn't gratitude.
No, of course not.
My instinct is to mute them, block them, or just walk away in frustration. How do superficial views actually develop the powers of thought?
Think about what happens when you are surrounded only by people who agree with you. You rely on shorthand. You never have to fully articulate your underlying logic because everyone is already just nodding along.
We all just assume we're right.
Exactly. But when someone presents a superficial view or a really shallow argument, it forces you to map out the hidden complexities they missed. You can't just say, because I know I'm right. You have to meticulously construct the foundational logic of your own stance to counter theirs.
So they basically serve as a sparring partner.
Exactly. The reference guide notes that Brunansky studies history and strategy reading Machiavelli, Lao Tzu, John Keegan, Robert Greene.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah. And when you study high-level strategy, you learn that opposing forces aren't just annoyances. They are the resistance required to keep your own critical thinking skills from atrophying. Without them, your mind just goes soft.
So what does this all mean? Mental resilience works exactly like muscle hypertrophy.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, you know from the source material that Brunansky runs Spartan races. He's done the Super 10K and the Beast 21K. You do not grow physical muscle by lifting feathers or jogging downhill on a paved road. You only grow muscle by subjecting your tissue to the micro tears caused by heavier resistance. You need the mud, you need the walls to climb, you need the heavy sandbags. In the exact same way, you don't grow intellectual empathy or emotional stamina without the heavy resistance of difficult people.
And he pushes that concept of heavy resistance deep into his personal emotional life, too.
Yeah, he does.
On his list, he writes, I'm thankful for the people who remind you that some people just need to be loved differently. I'm thankful for the people who remind you that some people have been loved too much, perhaps. That just acknowledges that human relationships are frequently messy, asymmetrical, and deeply exhausting.
Okay, but I have to issue a serious challenge on behalf of the listener here regarding the practical application of this stoicism.
Bring it on.
Finding gratitude for a toxic coworker who just threw you under the bus, or a genuinely infuriating family member at the holiday dinner table.
Yeah.
If I wait until I am calm, like 3 days later, to look back and say I'm grateful for that superficial argument because it made me stronger, isn't that just retroactive justification?
I see where you're going with this.
I mean, I'm not actually practicing gratitude in the moment. I'm just rationalizing my trauma after the fact.
That is a brilliant distinction to make, but you are hitting on the fundamental difference between a spontaneous emotion and a disciplined practice.
Okay, explain that.
Expecting to feel a warm, glowing sensation of thankfulness while your cortisol is spiking and you are in the middle of a screaming match is biologically unrealistic. The perpetual mindset doesn't mean you are immune to anger in the present tense.
Then how does it work?
It goes back to your camera lens analogy. In the moment of conflict, you are zoomed in way too tight. You are only seeing the offense. The practice of gratitude occurs in the period of deliberate reflection when you retreat to the soundstage and shut those heavy doors.
So you zoom out.
You zoom out and look at the result of the encounter. You aren't thankful for the coworker's toxic behavior. You are thankful for the absolute clarity you gained about your own personal boundaries. You are grateful for the internal patience you were forced to manufacture. You are extracting the value from the friction.
You are extracting the value from the friction. Wow. But processing that kind of heavy emotional resistance is draining. Doing that heavy lifting day in and day out eventually depletes your internal battery.
Oh, absolutely.
Which reveals why Brunansky's philosophy cannot exist in a vacuum. We cannot sustain this level of rigorous gratitude purely through internal willpower alone.
No, it inherently requires an external charge.
And he highlights this necessity with a quote from Albert Schweitzer. Schweitzer says, "In everyone's life, at some time, our inner fire goes out. It is then burst into flame by an encounter with another human being. We should all be thankful for those people who rekindle the inner spirit."
Notice the sequence of events Brunansky outlines in his own Thanksgiving ritual. He starts by shutting the doors temporarily to recalibrate his own mind.
Right.
But he immediately follows that solitary act with communion. He writes, "And then we sit down with friends and family and eat and drink together." The solitude is just a temporary mechanism to tune the instrument. Playing the music alongside others is the actual goal.
And he actively engineers this communion with his audience, too. At the very end of his reflection piece, he doesn't just sign off, he turns the camera outward and issues a direct call to his readers.
Yeah, the comments section.
He writes, "If you have something you're thankful for this Thanksgiving, comment below. We can all then be thankful you shared."
He is transforming gratitude from a private journal entry into a social contagion.
It operates exactly like a campfire. When you are dealing with the constant friction of life, the heavy resistance of difficult people, and the sheer effort it takes to maintain your career and your sanity, your internal fire is going to burn down to embers. You will get exhausted.
It's inevitable.
But then someone else shares their gratitude. Maybe it's a monumental life event, or maybe it's just their minuscule mention of a really great cup of coffee. Their willingness to share acts as the kindling that sparks your own appreciation again. We survive by borrowing light from each other until our own fire catches again.
That borrowed light is the only way to sustain Thoreau's concept of a perpetual Thanksgiving. It isn't a test of how much stoic gratitude you can generate in total isolation. It is a measure of how open you are to the warmth generated by the people around you.
So let's pull the camera all the way back and recap the cognitive rewiring we've explored today. We have traversed the absolute full spectrum of gratitude. We started by zooming out to the widest angle, acknowledging the magnificent foundational pillars of life, faith, health, and profound relationships.
The tectonic plates.
Then we twisted the lens inward, moving through the vibrant, visceral joys of art, travel, and physical connection, all the way down to the microscopic appreciation of a quiet morning coffee and a dog's chew toys.
A huge spectrum.
And we navigated this terrain guided by the deeply synthesized mind of Jeremy Brunansky, a mind that seamlessly overlays the rigorous risk management of artificial intelligence with the emotional depth of classical piano and Stoic philosophy.
He has demonstrated that genuine thankfulness requires a willingness to practice radical honesty regarding our material realities, a strategic appreciation for the friction that builds our intellectual muscle, and the humility to rely on others to reignite our fire.
So here is our direct call to action for you, the listener. Do not wait for an obligatory holiday in late November to run this exercise. Scan the horizon of your life today.
Today.
But this time, do not look for the deficits. Open your inventory and find your items of gigantic importance. Write them down. But do not let yourself stop there. Keep twisting that zoom lens tighter and tighter. Walk down the ladder of magnitude until you hit that minor, everyday pleasure where you pause, smile, and say, yeah, that's a good one too, I suppose.
And as you finalize that inventory, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder, a thought that builds on everything we've synthesized today.
What is it?
When you look at your completed spectrum of gratitude, from the macro to the micro, ask yourself a difficult question. Does this list merely inventory the comforts and possessions you currently enjoy, or does it reveal the architecture of the person you are actively striving to become? If your perpetual Thanksgiving is a mirror, what reflection is staring back at you right now?
It all comes back to taking that inventory. Only this time, you aren't obsessing over the empty spaces on the shelves. You're finally clearly seeing exactly what's there.